Hello, everybody. So I bet this is looking pretty familiar to you right now, isn't it? Everybody's coming in at the end of summer. We have regrowth, we have brassy mid-lengths, and we have washed out ends. And people want something that looks really nice for the fall. Basically, I'm taking you today, guys, through a color correction that's also going to bring a cooler mid shaft and bringing you a little depth through the ends while maintaining some highlights and bringing you into a fall blonde. And we're going to do this, guys, basically a 4 to 5 hour class in 45 minutes. I've broken this into a 2-part video series. So here you can see the end results where we have a lifted root with highlights and some depth in between, but brighter ends. So guys, I hope you enjoy this video. So let's get started. Hello everybody, how are you? Donna Cricky Ogazalik here, and I am an educator with East Coast Salon Services. So guys, today I thought I would bring to you something that you could use in the salon about this time of year. We're getting towards the end of summer, we're at the last week of August here, and moving into the fall, you're going to start getting some clients who've had some sun exposure. So for blondes, that can mean so many things. Like for some blondes, it seems to oxidize, get brassy when they come back. They need color rebalancing. And then other blondes, it gets so bleached out and so porous where the ends are white. The roots are something completely different. How in the world do you address this? So I'm going to address this in one step today for you guys. And not saying that this is the way you have to do it, but it helps to keep things time efficient. And if you can keep things organized in your mind and understand the why you're doing each step in the order that you're doing, and it just helps to make you have a system that is workable and achievable on all your guests. So right now I'm going to take you through a typical situation of what we're going to be looking at. So give me just a second. Okay, everybody, so now we're going to approach this a little bit like a class, but don't worry, I'm not going to keep you too long, but I think it's really important to understand the why before you watch my technique. So just a couple minutes of theory here, and then we're going to go on to me working on a mannequin in a sped up fashion so we can get to the gist of everything quickly for you. So as you can see here, I have a little head that I drew and I've worked it into zones. So the very first step that we have to do with our guests is to really analyze the hair. We're going to analyze for the health, the porosity, take a look at it into zones. Do they have regrowth? Like what percentage of gray do they have? Do they have no gray? Because that's going to factor into your formula. And how much regrowth do they have plays a factor as well. So in zone 1, you can see I kind of browned it out a little bit and left some space to represent darker hair with a little bit of gray, because I know myself, that's very typical. People even in their 20s start to gray. So we have to address that. So not only do they have their level and their gray and our end goal, what are we working towards? And just remember, everybody, when you lift more than 2 levels, you are really exposing that underlying pigment. So chances are you're going to really reveal a lot of orange, and you'll have to compensate for that as well. So is your desired end result, is it natural or is it an ash? So those are a couple things we need to think through. So zone 2 is very typical for a lot of guests, maybe oxidized over the summer. There's many factors that come into play. It could be someone's water content. Do they have a lot of iron, copper, things of that nature? Oxidation from the sun, environmental factors are going to help to turn your guest's hair a little bit more brassy. So, and that's typically above the regrowth, it's the old color, and it may span a ½ an inch, it may span an inch, and I've actually seen it go up to 2 inches. So the next part of the hair is the remaining lengths, and you're going to find varying shades within that section as well. So Some people I find are gold, which is why I put the gold in here. But sometimes, guys, don't we find that people's hair is actually white? It is absence of pigment. So in that case, we are going to either address the gold and it's not vibrant, and we would do that by using lightener, and I say in the end, or you can use a very, very low volume during the process as well. Or it could be that someone needs some color rebalancing. Okay, so that's the first section. So it's all about the analysis of the hair and asking your clients their desired end results. Okay, so on to page 2 here. So what I want to address, everyone, is I want you to work in ways that work for you. You want to look for solutions that are going to make you comfortable and set you up for success. Now, especially when there's a big project, I always say, like when I was first starting out and I wanted to try doing things for the first time, doing everything at once, I did it on somebody who I knew I was very familiar with family, with close friends, and when I felt capable. But you're always going to be a little uncomfortable. So you want to do it in a scenario where you feel a little more comfortable, okay? So know who you are. If you like to work slowly and calmly and it's going to help you feel and set you up for success, to do the regrowth first and zone 2. So meaning you might have 2 different formulas, one for the gray and lifting the darker hair up, and then another color in zone 2 to rebalance it. That's totally fine. And if you need to rebalance, say the hair is very porous and you want to add a little gold to the ends, do that too. And then if you want to do a little bit of highlights after, then you're welcome to do that. So know who you are as a stylist and respect yourself enough to do what works for you. So this is what I'm going to be doing today, is a little bit of an advanced technique. It helps you to work quickly, but it also helps to know if you can work methodically and have a system in your mind. So all in one step is going to save you time. So what I have right down here is depending, you will do the roots or the foils first. Just know that color needs 30 minutes to process, right? So especially if you're doing gray coverage, and if you're lifting, you actually need the timing for the toning. So 30 minutes is your best friend. So you're either going to use, if you do foils first, a very low volume developer to allow you to get the hair foiled, or I'm not gonna confuse you, never mind. Scratch that. I'm going to tell you during the actual mannequin segment. I'll go through that a little more. So depending, you could either do the foils first, go back in and tap in at the roots if you do the foils in a low volume developer, or you can do the roots first if you want it a little shadowy looking, but maybe just do a face frame with a very low volume developer so that it's just a little brighter around the face. So about halfway through all of this, after you do the roots and the foils, you're going to go back through to zone 2, which is the brassy area, with your corrective formula that you've customized to your client to help eliminate and tone down the gold and the brass in the hair. So then right after, you're going to go through and add brightness with lightener to the gold ends in the foils, or if it looks drab, just to make it a little brighter with either foils or balayage. So just know, if you are a stylist who feels better in doing the regrowth in zone 2 first, I applaud you. Do what you need to do to feel successful, and if you have the time, it's fantastic. So today though, we are going to be working in an all-in-one step, how to address the issues with your client and give them a beautiful color for the fall. So we'll see you. Okay, I am back, and so we are just getting ready to get started with the technical part of our program here. So guys, this was inspired to bring this video to you today because I encounter this all the time, and I'm sure you do too, where you have warmth right outside of the root area that you need to address, and it's just an approach of how to make it quick and easy. I am going to actually go through my formulation as if my client had gray hair, just to kind of give you an idea what you would do with your color line. I'm going to show you what I do with my color line, which is Baco by Kaaral, and I'm going to be using the Baco Cream Lightener, because this is incredibly nourishing. We're talking about hair that is end of summer, and we're gonna wanna be a little bit more gentle, but guys, you get amazing lift with this. It blasts through all the warmth, and your hair actually feels really nice afterwards. So I decided to go with the Baco Cream Lightener, and my formula for the root is going to be, I know it's backwards, this says 811, so this is an 8 double ash and 7 SK, which is our Silk Hair line. This is our great coverage. It's anti-aging. It's going to make the hair incredibly soft, but perfect great coverage, but I'm balancing it with some coolness because I am going to actually pretend that this girl has about a level 7 natural. Okay, so we're going to lift and we're going to tackle that underlying orangey undertones as you're lifting from a 7 through an 8, like an orange yellow with the 811, but I'm also taking care of that gray with basically a 7 natural that's designed for gray coverage. So the other aspect of this is I am also using Fraymar. Aren't these so cool? This is the All Y'all brushes. So I'm going to be using this for my lightener, for my lowlights, and we'll take you through as we go with the formulas. And I just also can't wait to show you guys, we have this at East Coast now. It's the Fraymar All Y'all foils. Aren't they so cool, the rainbow? So anyway, check us out for all of that, and I'm gonna get started. So we begin our process today by creating 2 rows of radial face frame foils. You can see I begin by folding back the first top of the section of the foil, and I'm feathering up as close to the scalp as I can, but I tend to remove most of the product, I'd say about a ½ inch out, and work my way down my foil, but then I feather back towards the top, making sure that it's just not blotched on. Take great care, especially around the face and at the top of the foils. So I am removing the excess hair that is previously lightened and folding up my foil into thirds, and then again about, I'd say about the outer third. That creates this really neat little face framing packet, guys. It's for your client's comfort. So I begin with my next section. Be sure to take thin sections. It's gonna look so pretty. And I use either baby lights or very fine weaves. And still we want I'd say about a ½ to 2/3 of a weave, making sure that it stays nice and bright around the face. So it doesn't matter, guys, whether you have a lot of regrowth like I have on this mannequin head, or whether you have a ½ inch. You could still do the same process to assure that the hair is nice and bright. So here I am actually using a 6 volume developer, and the reason is I know it's going to take me a long time, and many times around the face the hair is very, very fine, and so it doesn't matter whether you use a 6 volume or a 20 volume. The difference in the developer is the time. So a 6 volume developer just needs to be left on a lot longer than, say, if you're using a 20 volume. But by using a 6 volume developer or a 10 volume developer, it gives you the time that you're not rushing, and you can take your time to make sure that everything is placed beautifully, especially when the dimension of the hair, the texture is a lot thinner around the face in a lot of guests. So again, bending that foil backwards and laying that down towards the face, and making sure that I bend the ends of the foil so that it hugs to the round of the head. It makes things so much easier for you, everybody. And just making sure that it looks neat and clean up towards the top of the scalp, and feathering it down through the foil and pushing the hair that is already previously lightened outside the foil, so that we're going to protect those ends. Again, folding up a third again, and then just the bottom third, so that all of those foils are away from your guest's eyes, and that it's very comfortable. It feels very secure to your client as well. So this section, this can happen, you know, this is very typical. In the recision area, seems almost as if some hair is missing. So what you can do is just kind of work that into one section and just take your time and make sure you leave that hair out around the face if that is your desire. To me, it gives the hair a little bit of extra blending and softness. So you can see there's a little gap, but I just grab it with enough tension, not to pull your guess hair, but so that, and wiggle that foil up towards the top just to make sure that it's included, feathering so that it has a really pretty soft blur around the face. The nice thing about having that little lip behind your foil is that if you know, somehow around the face frame and you're getting the foil folded and it seems to slip a little, you can go back in with your tail comb and just gently push a little bit of that foil so that it's closer and higher up on the scalp. So again, folding in thirds. Sorry, my arm is blocking here. But one last little fold there, and then have it hug the face. So we're just gonna take another section. So just remember, guys, no rushing and making sure all the hair is pinned out of the way. It just sets you up for so much success, and it's so much nicer to work this way. So now as you get further back, you can start coming down a little bit and maybe not quite as close to the scalp. Because what's gonna happen is we're gonna transition as we get away from the face into a little bit more depth, and that's where we're gonna add some dimension and doing a little bit of color correction here. Okay, so this is our last section. You can see, everybody, I pre-sectioned maybe about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch around the face, just so that I can keep my guide is that I'm not overtaking too much brightness, because that's gonna give like a 1990s kind of look. Maybe that's what you're going for, but that's not what we're going for today. So you can see it's still pretty baby fine. Feathering it on up, and I have to tell you, my Framar All Y'all brush is so nice to work with. It has a really soft bristle, and it has like a feathered end so that it has like a little bit of inconsistency, which gives you a really gorgeous feathery finish. Okay, one last section on the side. And if you want to vary your weave where it's finer around the face, but then maybe, you know, it's almost like you're doing a diagonal back, isn't it, as you're doing the radial here? But if you go a little bit wider in your dimension, that's okay to vary your dimension of your foils. I think that creates a really neat little pop. And the key is in how you feather it up towards the scalp. Those seamless blurs are such the trend, and I don't think that's going away. I love the seamlessness that this creates. Okay, so at the top of the foil, you can see that I noticed that there is a little bit of hair that wasn't gotten, so I just readjust that foil. Always go back and double check to see if you're satisfied, especially down towards the root, and then feathering it out, checking also for even distribution. And in this case, you guys can see how I go underneath of that foil to kind of scooch it up so that I can get it as close to the scalp as possible. Okay guys, I am beginning our root formula by going in between the foils and just making sure we have beautiful saturation in between those foils, making sure we cover every single strand of hair. And one of the nice things to do also is to just kind of feather it out just a little bit so it doesn't look like there's a serious line of demarcation. So if you recall at the beginning of this video, we're gonna treat this mannequin head as if she had, say, about 40% gray coverage formula we're gonna need to do. So in this instance, I am using a level 7 SK, which is in Baco. It is our gray coverage formula. It's anti-aging. It gives you amazing gray coverage, and it has double the hydrolyzed silk, so it really softens those stubborn grays. I'm also blending it because knowing that we want to just lift it just a little bit and get rid of a little bit of warmth, I'm using an 8.11, which is a level 8 double ash. So you're going to customize your root formula in zone 1 to your guest. So again, just handling the face frame so that I can move forward into the rest of the head. So just to make things nice and easy, I go around the whole radial section of the head, making sure that I've addressed what's behind the foils and also around the hairline. And then the rest is easy breezy. Okay, so I'm just going around the outside perimeter of the hair just to make sure that I have everything covered. And then what I actually do, guys, I divide the head in half. And I know most of you are used to working in quadrants. You got to do what works for you. But let me tell you my logic. You know, as I started growing as a stylist and the demand started increasing and I needed to move more quickly. Now, you want to do what's going to help you to be successful in doing things neat and clean. You can see I'm just kind of dividing the head in half, and I actually take my sections, instead of doing quadrants, I do halves of the head. And I just go from the back of the head to the front, and I take thin enough sections that I make sure that I cover everything, saturate all the hair at the root area. But this works well for me. If you want to give it a try, give it a try. If not, no big deal. You do you. I have to tell you a fun story though. I actually taught a class of a guy, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Dorothy Hamill. She was an Olympic figure skater who was known for the Dorothy Hamill cut back in the day, and this guy did her hair. So I was really honored to go teach a class at his salon, and I showed him this, and he was just blown away. He's like, oh my gosh, because then I went back for a second class. He said, I've been doing that, and it really saves time. He's like, I don't know why I never thought of it. So I'm able to cover a lot of ground quickly. We're working on zone 1. And just making sure that we have even saturation. And we are going to be next going through and doing some highlights. So I just continue top to bottom, making sure that I cover the hair thoroughly.